term climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Navigating COVID while protecting yourself can be difficult. Fortunately, there's a hotline you can call with any questions. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on vaccines, booster shots, and testing sites. Right now, booster shots are available to anyone over the age of 18 for those who are eligible. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline can also help with housing, food, medical, and educational support. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19, vaccinations, booster shots, or testing, please call 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. There is a heat advisory in effect until 6 p.m. Tuesday evening. Cloudy tonight with a low of 77, then a slight chance of showers and storms on Tuesday with a high of 95. The locally owned Vinaigrette has been offering the finest olive oils and vinegars since 2009. That's Vinaigrette, Xerxes Avenue and 50th Street in Minneapolis, or at vinaigrettemn.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot, and we discuss local and national Native news and events. And as you know, Wendy, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Native Roots Trading Post. We will be at the Minnesota State Fair starting Thursday, August 25th through Monday, September 5th.
Wow. Yes, we will. Hey, Wendy, you're normally, my hot wife, but it's really hot out. So you're extra hot now. So I appreciate that. But wow. Global warming or what?
It's really bad. Yeah. Cut out some water for the little critters outside if you can. Yeah, it's really bad out there. Our dogs went out for literally like 5 minutes, laid down in the sun, and then bark to come back in. That's how hot it is. They can't take it.
I know.
I see a lot of people out there walking their dogs too. Be really careful. Put the back of your hand on the sidewalk and leave it there for 5 seconds. If you can't, it's too hot for your dog's feet. And just imagine walking around with a fur coat. That's how they feel. They run hotter than us.
And their feet is where they sweat, right?
Yes,
Isn't that what you were saying on one of the sacred? We're having our own sacred animal portion right now.
They sweat through their paws. So.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff's going on here. I mean, I've been sharing stuff on Facebook all day in Indian country here.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have Ogimaa here with the news, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we did yesterday at the state capitol. And I have a couple clips we'll play, and then we'll have Dr. Stately on again.
Perfect.
We kind of put Dr. Stately went on vacation after he was worn out when he hosted the show a couple days. So
you wore him out?
Not me. The show must have. But hey, let's get with Ogimaa with the news that you don't hear anywhere else. Welcome, Ogimaa.
Hi, bonjour, everybody. I'm Ogimaa Ganuakwe. I'm a citizen of the Red Lake Nation in northern Minnesota. And you know what? I have been meaning to talk about some of these Indigenous and environmental issues the last few weeks here. There's a lot of things going on nationwide for Indigenous and Native issues that we don't always get a chance to talk about here on the show. And of course, the first one I want to talk about has to do with our neighbors here in Minnesota, the Line 5 pipeline that is going to go through that is in the process of being replaced or requested to be replaced in Wisconsin and northern Michigan. The Line 5 pipeline is owned by the Canadian company Enbridge, and they have the line currently running through northern Wisconsin and up through the Straits of Mackinac in northern Michigan. Currently, I believe there is reports that it was built in 1953. So that was built during the Eisenhower administration. So these pipelines are incredibly, incredibly old. And the Michigan governor has requested that the Enbridge company shut down the Line 5 pipeline underneath the Straits of Mackinac in the state of Michigan. And currently Enbridge has not honored that. So this is one of those big issues that we don't really, get to talk about a lot, Robert. And this is an issue that could definitely affect the Ho-Chunk Nation where you're from in Wisconsin.
Yes. There's been things going past my desk about this, and also some mining going on in some sacred areas in Wisconsin that are big Ho-Chunk areas. So that's come across, and more on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is currently a really big deal for the tribes in northern Wisconsin, which I do believe have put an injunction against Enbridge, and that is still in process as well. But the DNR released the draft environmental impact statement on Enbridge's proposed pipeline for Line 5 in Wisconsin. It follows through Ashland, Bayfield, it's Monday, and Iron counties in northern Wisconsin. And there was a webinar where a lot of people from Minnesota came and said, this is dangerous. We've watched what's happened in Minnesota, and also Enbridge has a history of spills, especially with the Kalamazoo River in Michigan. But there's another issue with Enbridge that I don't think a lot of people are really talking about. So there is a Enbridge proposed pipeline down in Texas. Robert, you might have heard me mention this, but I guess I'm not sure that I've really had that much time to talk about it. The Indigenous peoples of the Coastal Bend on May 6th announced that on May 6th, Enbridge announced a delay in their terminal expansion down near the Gulf of Mexico, because the Indigenous peoples of the Coastal Bend have an ancestral sediment, and it's the land of the Karankawa, and there's been thousands of sacred artifacts found, and the coastal tribe has ceremony and prayer there that has continued for the last 2,000 years. The briefing schedule that was proposed basically said that it was agreed that briefings would be pushed back in order to have evidence properly cross-examined. But they were informed that the construction is now halted until after October 24th of 2022 this year, which will now let the Indigenous peoples, tribal groups, and legal team construct a stronger argument. But apparently they've been challenging this process down from Enbridge since 2015. And I've only heard of this just recently. So this is something where this company's also got pipelines in other parts of the country that I think a lot of people, again, just aren't really aware of. That this is happening. The construction down there is off the Texas Gulf Coast and Ingleside on the Bay. Coastal Watch said that they're planning on dredging the construction on a new pier for their Ingleside oil terminal. And the reason for the dredging being halted again is because of indigenous people. But they also say that there will be pollution of sacred natural waters, and they attest that it violates several U.S. water protection laws. So again, we've got indigenous people leading the way in these environmental struggles. They're also leading the way for Apache Stronghold. Robert, do you remember talking about Apache Stronghold at all?
A little bit, and I just, as you're talking, Ogimaa and Wendy, I'm just going, we're never going to run out of stuff to talk about on this show.
Never.
Ever. There's never going to be a shortage of Native issues.
I'll be happy the day when we don't have anything to talk about.
That's when you'll be putting me in the home, though, I think, and I won't know what to talk about. But remember who you are.
I hope not. That would be, my mom and I have a pact that she's never going to a home. I'm going to she took care of me. I owe it to her to take care of her. That's what we do. We take care of our elders. So,
Okay, well, I'm an elder, so we'll be moving up to Bemidji in about 20 years, right, Wendy?
We will.
All right.
So we hope. So my article on the Apache Stronghold isn't loading for me today because apparently it's Monday. But Robert, you wanted to talk a little bit about what we did yesterday. Do you want to?
Yeah, we're going to do that next segment, and Wendy can give a little teaser before we go. But Ogimaa, I want to bring up the fact that her name's Janie Casanavoid, and she's history was made. This is off her Facebook. History is made. The first Native American woman to medal at the World Track and Field Championship. First time in history, 2 women placed in the same world podium event. She throws the hammer, and it's just an amazing thing. We just have to, with all the doom and gloom, and I still can't get over Wendy's animal segment last week with all the doom and gloom. We have to throw out a positive every once in a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially since there are 1 million ants per every person in the United States. Good thing that they're very, very itsy bitsy small, like the piece of cheesecake I had the other day.
Are we recording this? Is this live? Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. And Wendy, what are we going to talk about?
I don't know yet. I don't know.
We do know. It's a surprise. We'll be right back after the short break.
Stay with us. Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Well, hey, Wendy, what did we do yesterday? I mean, you were a trooper. You weren't feeling good, and it was 1,000,000 degrees out, and we were like...
Well, you and Ogimaa and I went to St. Paul College, where we met for a rally for women's rights and the right to access abortion here in Minnesota. And we rallied, and there were speakers, and we marched, walked to the state capitol where there were more
I marched.
speakers and people, entertainment, singers. It was really awesome. Ogimaa, jump in anytime you want.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an amazing event. I think there were reports there were some 5,000 people there for reproductive rights in Minnesota. And they kept reminding the crowd, and I thought this was a really important thing that they reminded people of, and that we should remind people of who might be listening, that currently right now in Minnesota, the right to access abortion is protected. However, there were some, there's a lot of states surrounding us where they are now not able
we're
to
in
do
Wisconsin, and it's a red alert there in Wisconsin. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy, Wendy.
Go ahead, Ogimaa. Finish what you were saying.
But just like Roe versus Wade, in your individual state, just because abortion remains legal in your state does not mean it will continue to remain legal. One of the speakers yesterday said laws are fickle and they change frequently. Just because it's the law that you have the right to access reproductive care like abortions or contraceptive or gender affirming care always does not mean that you have that right forever, and you have to continue to fight for that right, because after 50 years, Roe versus Wade was overturned.
Well, and two, it came out today that our buddy from Texas, what's his name? He ran for president. Said that gay marriage is next on the agenda. So we're being run by religious.
Buttigieg. No, it wasn't him.
No,
he's married to a man. He's from Texas.
No.
Oh, somebody else? Okay.
No, somebody else said that they were coming at it. The guy that ran for president from there, not Buttigieg from Indiana.
I see. Okay.
Ted Cruz.
Oh, Ted Cruz. Okay.
Was saying that the bad guy. Buttigieg good, Cruz bad. But hey, Wendy, let's get our juices going, and why don't we play Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan's speech? Totally amazing. Great, just to get
yesterday.
us. Yes, it is
awesome. Do it.
So give me 1 second here, because I'm totally.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for always being steadfast as we stand here, as we are here. We are bearing witness to our right to make decisions about our own bodies. I am here today, and I wouldn't be anywhere else than here with all of you. This is an incredibly important moment, an incredibly important time. And when the decision came down from the Supreme Court, the first thing that I did was call my mom. And my mom said, "My girl, I have been preparing you for this moment your entire life. And we know that there are people who came before us, who cleared a pathway, who made sure that we were protected, made sure that we had the right to an abortion. And we are going to fight that fight again, and it is an honor to do so." And let's be clear that Black, Indigenous, people of color, folks who live in rural communities, folks who are low income, our neighbors with disabilities are going to be the people who are hardest hit by lack of access to abortion. And let's make sure that we name that that is not an accident, that is by design. So we have to tell the truth that abortion is health care, that abortion is a right. And that we will not go quietly off into the night. We will march in the thousands to say, we will not go backwards. And as long as we are in this office, as long as we occupy the offices in this building, we will fight like hell to protect your right to an abortion. And for every single Minnesotan, for pregnant people to make sure that they can make decisions about when and if and how they start a family. So we will not go backwards. I am honored and humbled to be your lieutenant governor, to be in this office with Governor Walz, but more than anything, I am honored and humbled to be a Minnesotan in this fight with all of you. We won't go back.
Yeah, there we were there.
It was awesome. She's a great speaker, and yeah, we won't go back. We're going to have to do everything that we possibly can so that we don't go back.
Yeah, exactly. And there were a lot of people out there. It was so hot. It was. They walked from St. Paul College, was what, probably about 10 blocks away, or
Something
longest,
like that,
city blocks. And I just think that the Republicans got something they better be watching out for, because this is not going away. And then also, we always talk about this, and I bring this up, Wendy and Ogimaa, is they're coming at us. They're coming at every law that they don't like, and every religious law in ICWA, which is, the Indian Child Welfare Act, that really puts puts Native families over white families, but in adoption, because there's another way of genocide towards us. But again, let's go back here in these next few minutes and talk about it. You two talk about it, and I'll sit back about yesterday.
Yeah. You want to start off, Ogimaa? You can go ahead.
Yeah, so I arrived at the rally just a little bit ahead of you guys, and there were some really amazing, actually, faith leaders. We're talking about religious people being part of the reason that this access to abortion and reproductive health care and other rights are starting to be taken away, is that one of the faith leaders that was there, she was talking about how, I believe she's with the Unitarian Church in Minneapolis, but she was talking about how something like 70% of Minnesotans support access to abortion, which means by definition that there are millions of people within Minnesota who are religious that support access to this. And that, in fact, that always means that they who do not wish this for freedom for people are in the minority. And that is something that I think gets forgotten when we look at the main media and what is being covered. You hear these people touting their religious reasoning for these laws, that they think that their religion belongs within these laws, and it just simply does not. And the majority of people in Minnesota and the majority of the people in the United States, from what polls they've taken, believe that this should be the case.
Well, my question to them would be, how many children have you adopted? How many children are you fostering at this time? There's like 450,000 children right now in the United States in foster care. And how many more are we going to have? This is ridiculous. They don't want to give these children housing. People don't want to adopt them. People don't want to foster them. And we're just going to have more children.
It's overreach of the religious right, period. I mean, same with you can put gun control in this too. It's the same people.
I love some of the signs yesterday. I have to just shout out a couple of them. Ogimaa, you took quite a few pictures of them.
I did.
Row your vote. I love that one.
Row your vote was pretty good.
Yep. Yep. Do anything they can do bleeding.
Mhm.
That was a good one. I took that picture.
The one that really hit me really hard, because I'm a mother of 2 kids, was a young girl holding a sign. It said, "I thought I was only going to have to worry about getting shot at school."
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, a lot
A
of
lot of them carried a lot of vulgarity, which is why we can't necessarily repeat some of them on air. But, I mean, I went yesterday and I was supposed to go with 2 girlfriends, and I ended up, going without 2 of my girlfriends, and both of them, cited reasons for lack of, childcare for their reasoning to not come.
Right.
So, we
Yeah.
talk about these people who are supposedly pro-life, but we don't have access to universal health care. People are
Nope.
dying and going into bankruptcy because they don't have access to regular health care, not even reproductive health care. We don't have mandated maternity leave. I mean, we are one of the richest countries in the world, and we are one of the top richest countries in the world, and we are the only one that does not have a mandated maternity leave. We don't have access to affordable childcare in most of the country, and we don't have free and accessible preschool for people. Those are the things that protect life.
Yep, they do.
Good talk. Nina says, I hate to think, whoop, that was just switched. I hate to think that I had more rights than my granddaughter has. Exactly. Hey, up next, Dr. Stately. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us.
There's so many places you could be. You chose to be here. You chose to be here and provide voice to those who don't have the voice. You provided to be here to stand in the breach to protect basic rights. You chose to be here today because someday our children and grandchildren are going to ask, what the hell?
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Summer is going fast, but Next Chapter Booksellers has everything you need to keep up with your summer reading. From the hottest new titles to timeless classics, Next Chapter Booksellers has something for any taste, and their friendly staff are great at making recommendations for the perfect summer read for you or your loved ones. Plus, Next Chapter Booksellers has a wide variety of puzzles and games for those rainy days. So keep up with your summer reading at Next Chapter Booksellers off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. Hot July days are best enjoyed with family and friends at the backyard barbecue with your favorite summer foods. But before you know it, you've got those sticky pop spills and barbecue stains all over the place. Lucky for you, Zero Res can get those sweet sticky messes out of your home with no problem. Zero Res has your back on carpet, tile, area rug, and upholstery cleanings, and their experienced technicians know the best care for each of the unique surfaces in your home. And don't forget about your air ducts. If they're dirty, your indoor air quality suffers. Trust the cleaning heroes at Zero Res to safely clean years of built-up dust and gunk out of your air ducts as your air conditioner swirls through the summer. Schedule your summer cleaning today at ZeroResMinnesota.com with the AM 950 special to get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $129 and take $100 off any air duct cleaning service. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
Hi, this is Desi Doyen of the Green News Report and the Bradcast. You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hi, I'm Kirk Duckwall from the Twin Cities Real Estate Show here on AM 950. You've heard me mention housegeeks.com before, but head over there now and check out our all-new website. Whether you're buying or selling a home here in the Twin Cities, you'll find the information you're looking for. From our neighborhood market updates to our free tips videos, housegeeks.com is the place to go. And when it is time to buy or sell, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, that's at housegeeks.com.
Hi, this is Chad from AM 950. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, and insulation contractor in the metro. Ryan is so excited about working with AM 950 and our listeners that he wants to help us grow.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. I was friends with Chad long before I started marketing with him. I was a bit skeptical of radio advertising before Chad convinced us to run ads. The advertising's been so successful, we want to help the station grow. We've absolutely loved working with the listeners of AM 950, and we all know how extremely important this radio station is to the community. To help AM 950 grow this summer, Snap Construction will be putting up proceeds to assist the station in marketing on social media. Snap Construction encourages you to follow, engage, share, and interact on the AM 950 social media platforms. Together, we can all work to ensure AM 950 continues to thrive and grow in our communities. We stand by our work with a lifetime craftsmanship guarantee. For a free estimate or more information on our financing, call 612-333-SNAP or check us out online.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. There is a heat advisory in effect until 6 p.m. Tuesday evening. Cloudy tonight with a low of 77, then a slight chance of showers and storms on Tuesday with a high of 95. The locally owned Vinaigrette has been offering the finest olive oils and vinegars since 2009. That's Vinaigrette, Xerxes Avenue and 50th Street in Minneapolis, or at vinaigrettemn.com.
Bijou. I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
I just wanted to play a little more of the governor.
And you're going to say everything possible. I can't tell you how grateful I am for all of our partners. And I can tell you that Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, the First Lady, and myself, just like you, in those terrible hours after the Supreme Court's horrific decision on Dobbs, the one thing we were saying is, what can we do? What can we do with this office to use every bit of the authority and the legal rights we have to protect Minnesotans' rights and freedoms? And the first,
the governor was on fire yesterday too.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking on fire, we have Dr. Stately, who's the CEO of the Native American Community Clinic. And we really haven't seen Dr. Stately since we asked him to co-host our show. And I think he's hiding from us now. But we got him back here a couple weeks later. Welcome, Dr. Stately.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Hi, Robert. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Ogimaa. I'm happy to be back. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction.
We're happy you're back.
We are. We missed you too. We had to tell jokes last Monday, and I'm not a good.
Oh no!
Right.
The rating and the ratings plummeted, or what happened?
Yeah, the ratings plummeted.
The viewers, like on Facebook and YouTube, boom, 0.
Oh jeez. Well, I'm sorry.
Hey.
I had vacation, and then I had the ceremony and a bunch of it. Yeah. So, can you hear me okay? I have new AirPods. Are they working okay?
They sound great, and they look good. Kind of like sacred earrings too. Yep. Yeah.
Bead those things. I should get beaded ones on the end. Yeah.
That would be cool. Maybe we should sell those at the fair. I don't know. What do you think?
Hey, that's an idea. Yeah.
Hey, Dr. Stately. Yeah, Dr. Stately, we got a lot of things to talk about here, but we got another variance here, and Wendy and I are going out of town. And by the way, we're looking for somebody to host the show Thursday and Monday.
We can talk about that later.
I thought I'd let you know over live radio that, hey.
There you go. Yeah.
I'll
have to look at my contract again. So let's see what it says. What I would say is, yes, we have many, well, not many. We have like at least 2 or 3 new variants, and they are pretty serious. And I think that, so, you all know that I've been traveling. I went to Missouri, or as I like to call it, Misery. Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri is where I was. Actually, it's like, it was really cool. It was like where they shot the show, kind of like in that general area. Called the Ozark. Yeah, I was hoping I would run into Marty Bird. He wasn't there. but also, so I went there with to spend time with my mother, my adopted mother, and her family, and my extended family. That's part of that family relationship. And it was wonderful. We rented 2 Airbnbs right next to each other, and they all came up from Oklahoma. We drove down from Minnesota and met there in Lake Ozarks, and it was wonderful. And I don't think anybody got COVID. We all sort of kind of like masked up when we needed to when we go into town. I'll be honest and say I didn't wear a mask when I was in the helicopter. We took a helicopter ride, which was really cool. Me and my kids. But we were fine. And then I came home. I was home for a day. Then I went to San Diego to speak at a conference, a tribal health conference with 48 of the California tribes. And the day I was leaving, somebody tested positive. So of course that made me super anxious. I was testing for a few days here. Came home from that conference and I was home for a day, and then we went off to Sundance and my son's naming ceremony over the weekend. And on the day we were supposed to go to Sundance, on that last day, a handful of people tested positive at the ceremony. So they kind of like, shuttered it down early, sent everybody home. And then I think we still had a very small family, sort of like intimate naming ceremony for myself and the 2 other families that were having their children named. And so far my family's good. I'm good. I just tested negative again today, but but the intercessor, the person who named my children, actually, he tested positive this afternoon. He texted me, even though he had tested negative multiple times. So I think one of the things that it just tells me, and sort of is an opportunity to discuss like the importance of, kind of testing regularly, and also masking up to the extent that you're able to on a regular basis when you're in small and large groups, especially when you're outside indoors. In a Sundance, it would make sense that a group of people would get possibly share the virus among themselves, because they're in ceremony together, they're sitting closely together, they're all dancing very closely together, and that's possible to happen. So I just think it's important for us to remember as the summer sort of progresses and some of us go into ceremony and if we go back home, the importance of doing things like testing regularly. And because I think what happened with my relative, who was the person who named my children, he tested negative for a number of days, and then just kind of, today, a couple days after the ceremony, told me, I did test positive. You should check your family. So, we're all going to do our part to sort of, test and make sure we're really careful. Test 2 and 3 or 4 times over the course of the week, so that we are careful not to spread it. And I'll wear a mask everywhere I go. I wore a mask today when I went to work. So.
Yeah, well, Wendy is a tester here. She tests a lot too, and we were out in the crowd, but when we took the Uber to the Capitol, we definitely put our masks on, and we're flying out to Cooperstown, New York, this Thursday, and wearing our masks.
Yeah, we'll be wearing the busy terminal and on the plane.
Yeah. When I got on the plane, I wore the mask inside in the jetway, which is like I read some articles that says like that's a really tight place. You should mask up there. Airplanes, for the most part, because they have all been sort of upgraded with some fairly decent, really robust ventilation systems over the last couple of years. Many of them have done that. It's a little less required, but I would, I would encourage people to use common sense and what we have in terms of the available evidence, which is, we do know that masks and washing our hands are fairly effective. For 1 year during the pandemic, we pretty much annihilated, in the United States at least, maybe not annihilate, but really practically 0 cases of the flu. So we know that those things are effective in terms of sort of preventing the spreading of airborne viruses and illnesses. So doing those things, and then if we have conditions that make us more vulnerable to becoming sick and seriously sick, that would be a really important thing to do, is to sort of kind of use your common sense, your gut, when to use a mask, when to be cautious, lots of fist bumps, lots of elbow hellos, air hugs are great. Air hugs. Those are really important things to do because, these newer variants, they seem to be pretty slippery little fellas. They evade some of the earlier vaccinations and boosters for some folks, and for people who are 6 months past their last booster or so, they're probably more likely to get seriously ill and not have as much protection as they think, because we do know that immunity wanes over between a 4 to 6 month period, wanes significantly. So.
You know what a really good point is, Dr. Stately, that you just made, that during the pandemic and even a little bit now, or you can tell me exactly, is that the flu went away because we were masking up, we were social distancing, and I forget that, I forget that. That's a really important point.
Yeah. So I think it's important to remember that, because it does tell us that we have the tools that we need to be able to sort of kind of put this thing to bed again, kind of so to speak, and be able to sort of kind of get to a place where we can all enjoy a little bit more safety. But it requires everybody sort of kind of doing their part, right? And I understand. I get it. I'm as exhausted from the pandemic as anybody else. I work in healthcare, so I deal with it a lot. But it will help us to all get to the place where we want to be sooner if we just kind of practice a little bit more caution and listen to our intellect and our intuitiveness, and use those things to sort of guide our behavior.
And exactly, getting vaccinated, can't say it enough. I mean, I've been lucky. I've been double boosted, so I've had 4 shots, and I have not gotten COVID yet, and I've been reckless.
You have not
No,
been
I'm
reckless.
kidding.
Robert is responsible. He's not reckless.
I'm kidding, but I've been in groups where outside, and it's just
Sure.
like, wow, should I wear a mask? Shouldn't I? Should I? Should I? And yesterday we were in a big group.
Yeah, I think it's it's like, I feel fairly confident about having been in that ceremony. I wasn't close to the individual very often for very long. We were all outdoors, though it was a pretty safe environment, I think, for the most part. But just to be cautious, I'm going to test again tomorrow. For the next 5 days, I'll test just to make sure, because it does take between 5 to 7 days for it to show up.
So that's 1 test per day, then. Is that what you're going to be doing? Okay.
Yeah. If I really want to be ambitious, I'll do a 2 for both.
Robert makes fun of me because I test quite often, and he's always like, "You're paranoid," whatever. And I'm just like, "Well, I was around people, and I just want to make sure that I'm not positive, and I don't want to go out there and give it to anybody else, and I want to just stay."
Yeah. No.
I don't
Paranoid means you're afraid of something that's unknown. This is a known thing, so you're not paranoid.
Right.
You're cautious, abundantly cautious.
Well, on that note, I guess I'll talk about that in therapy. You're listening to Native Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be back with Dr. Stately.
Stay with us. Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
COVID vaccines are safe and available for anyone over the age of 6 months, and booster shots are available for anyone over the age of 5. Getting vaccinated will protect you from severe illness and hospitalization from COVID. If you're still not sure about getting vaccinated, talk to your doctor. They can answer any questions you have about safety and vaccine effectiveness. This message brought to you by the Native American Community Clinic. Find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Dr. Stately was either on mute or he just mimicked it so his dogs go crazy.
Yeah.
One or the other, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Lip syncing. I was lip syncing.
The wolf.
Oh,
all the great performers have done it. Madonna, J-Lo.
Billy Manilli or
Yeah,
Millie?
J-Lo got married.
Vanilla Manila.
Yeah, that was the last time I really. Well, anyways, that's a different show. But so Dr. Stately, back to what we were talking about. I know Ogimaa has a little. Ogimaa has a little one, and we're able to soon start giving shots to very, very young people.
6 months and older.
Right.
Yep,
No,
6 months and older. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Are you planning on having your baby get a shot?
I am. Unfortunately, baby's first cold was COVID. And we are she was not officially tested, but I had COVID back in May, and she was ill at the same time that I was, following a trip where we had to go to California as well. We had a family funeral. And they're supposed to wait 90 days is what her doctor just told me today at her follow-up for her well child for her 4 months old. But also at her 6 months, she's going to have other vaccinations given at the same time. So they're talking about maybe waiting until just a little bit longer than 6 months because of the other vaccinations. We don't want to overload her system. But also, we come from a small health system where I live here in Minnesota. So they actually won't have access to the vaccine for children under 5, they believe, for quite some time. So they're looking currently into alternative places where I might be able to take her for a vaccine. So I'm going to be checking with my my tribe's IHS hospital up north in Red Lake. And if anybody else knows, Dr. Stately, does NAC have the authorization to give vaccinations to children under 5?
Yes, we do.
Do you have the vaccine in your office? Could I bring her down there?
I have to look at. I'll have to look into that. I'll ask. Yeah, I'll find out. I know that we bought the deep freeze for it, and we thought, when it showed up, we thought, it's gonna be this little freezer, about yay big. It's like this huge freezer. Like it's bigger than my freezer at home. It's like this big, huge monstrosity.
I was hoping that you would not tell everybody until Thursday's show, kind of have a little teaser, for the next day you host the show.
Yeah. How would you like me to tease them?
Easy. All right. This show is,
Just kidding.
you didn't hear Wendy before you got on. Wendy lost her mind and I couldn't stop laughing. And
Oh no.
it's a serious show and I've
It's the
lost my
heat.
mind.
It's the heat, everybody.
It is
It's
the heat. It's like a 100-degree heat index outside.
yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a heat advisory.
And it is well known scientifically a fact that older people, such as yourself, have a hard time managing high degree heat.
Oh,
It is.
That's why I take my walk early in the morning. Yeah. Oh, wow.
speaking of this heat, Dr. Stately, for every age group, from our babies to our elders, how do we watch for signs of heat exhaustion or dangerous heat exposure in every age of people?
Well, I think it's really important to do one thing. So recognize that small children and older people are really vulnerable to the heat. And then if you have some certain chronic diseases that make you a little bit more vulnerable to the effects of heat. I was just listening. I think one of the things that a lot of people don't think about actually is the impact of high humidity that it has on your ability. So your body, when you sweat, when you're hot, when you're overheated, your body sweats, and that sweat system, the sweat, the moisture that your body releases when you're overheated is part of your natural cooling system, right? It's like a dog panting. It's like that's an indication that your cooling system is working properly. But to have that happen for a very long duration and for a long, significantly long periods of time, that can harm your body. I think the other thing that's really important is, and I just heard this on the radio on the way in on that other public radio station, we won't mention their name. They were talking about this research that showed that in high humidity cases where if your body is, if you're sweating and you're perspiring, and the level of the humidity reaches about the same level of what the moisture on your body is, that your body can't cool down in that situation. And so that's why high humidity and that feeling of like that weight on your body, that the difficulty breathing, pay attention to your body. Your body is an amazing instrument, and it will tell you when something in the danger zone is happening. So if you're feeling like it's difficult to breathe and you're outside and you're walking and you're sweating, like get indoors, cool off, take a break. If you have something that, if you're out gardening or doing other sort of like, heavy duty type of work or things that require you to exert more effort and it's really hot out and you're sweating, break that up into multiple episodes of doing the work. Don't try and do everything all at once. You will overstrain your system, your body's ability to sort of naturally cool and sustain itself. Drink lots of water, because when you sweat a lot, you're losing salt and you're losing a bunch of other things, and you can become dehydrated in that situation and also experience heat exhaustion and also a heat stroke. So taking good care of yourself, hydrating, breaking things up into smaller chunks so that you can kind of manage them and you're not overstraining your body and its ability to cool off is really, really important. Wear light colored clothing, light fabrics, those kinds of things when you're out and about.
Dr. Stately, I know we bring this up every once in a while when it's super heat, but we're so community oriented. Check in on your elders.
Yes.
Especially people that don't have air conditioners, old air conditioners.
Yep. Do not leave your children or your pets in the car, even for a short period of time at all. That's super dangerous. And then and lots of water for everybody. Hydrate a lot.
Well, I haven't left the house since this morning, and I did my hour and a half walk, and I was totally sweaty, but I got it done before it got really hot. And I think if you can, and you are crazy and you got to exercise, do it early in the morning.
Don't take your pet out until after the sun sets. Those kinds of things. Short walks for your pets on hot days like this, both for your pet's health and also your own health. Take your walks early in the morning before it gets hot. Take it late at night, or shorten the walk. Don't exert yourself. And we are under a heat advisory until 6 p.m. tomorrow night, not tonight, but 6 p.m. tomorrow night in
Yeah.
Minneapolis anyway. So.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, Dr. Stately, you're a few years behind me, but I'm telling you, as a child, I don't remember. I remember one year we had a drought. It was like 1988. But I mean, other than that, in my whole previous 45, 50 years, I don't remember weather like this at all.
Oh, me neither. Yeah. Growing up, I mean, we had humid summers,
Yeah.
and things like that, but they were like, it wasn't like unbearable. You could leave the window open. Some of my best memories are of me like having my window open, my bed next to it, the feeling the breeze come in, and I liked warm nights. You know, that's what I loved about
Yeah.
Minnesota, being able to have your window open, sleeping at night. This is before a lot of the other things that are going on today, but you know, it also helped escaping. You know, once my mom went to sleep, if I crawl out the window,
Right.
that
Well, you
helped a
took
lot.
a car down the alley and then,
Exactly. Yeah, go down to Franklin
kids
Avenue and see what
get a
everyone's
car.
doing. Yep.
Don't ever let your kids get a car when they're 15. That's all I have to say. Just from
No, don't. Yeah.
my, that's too. Hey, Dr. Stately, Peeny Gigi for all the great words and the great humor and everything. So I just want to end with these thoughts. If you're listening to the show, you are part of the resistance from Chief Plentycoops. The ground in which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Free Leonard Peltier.
Aho.
No matter if you're eating out or cooking something at home, eatlocalminnesota.com has you covered with a list